We chose to be here. We chose to put our consciousness, focus our consciousness into a restrictive system. Some of us are more fortunate than others, and we're born in a country which is less restrictive than others. Perhaps not born into poverty, as many are. So just in terms of Western culture, we're born into civilization that's very restrictive. But being born into it, we don't really see it that way. It's just the way it is. So if you're born into certain conditions, you perceive them as normal. You don't really see the walls of your prison. Now, consciousness is ever seeking, it's ever expanding, it's ever moving forward. That's the nature of consciousness. Once your consciousness reaches a certain level of awareness, of intelligence, of knowledge and understanding, realizations, then consciousness wishes to expand even quicker. Progression is accelerated. And when you find yourself trapped in a restrictive system that has you doing too many repetitive tasks, it can cause consciousness to self-destruct, to find itself restricted to the point where there's no way out, and it turns inward on itself and tries to self-destruct. This is why so many people tend to find life hopeless, and spiritual matters do definitely help. Now, there's so many joys in life that can be found, yes, but still, we are within a system. It's a economic system, it's a capitalist system, or many would say it's a cartelist system, where those at the top collude for their own profit and gains, and those at the bottom merely fuel that. So the system is not designed for everyone. Now, as I said, there's happiness to be found. You can book a holiday, you can go out on a Saturday night, you can spend a lovely day with the family. But our whole lifestyles are not built around an optimal life. There's certain things that we must do in order to survive, and our existence is based on scarcity. We need to work hard for a living to earn enough money to get by. Now, that's most people. Others have a little more, others have a bit less, and they really struggle to get by, as we know, and others have an awful lot. And yet, happiness is still elusive. They're still all part of the same restrictive system. Those at the very top, they find themselves free of those chains, but they enjoy manipulating the system. They're the masters of it and the orchestrators of it, and that's where they find their joy. The rest of us find ourselves in it, having to abide by the rules. I'm not saying that rules are bad. Obviously, we don't want people defecating in the street or beating each other up and taking each other's money. Of course, rules are good. But when a whole system is built on scarcity, and many people spending most of their time in occupations that they don't necessarily enjoy, feel like that they have to do them in order to survive, don't you feel it's a bit of a waste of a life? Obviously, I'm just saying what most people feel in their work. They wish they could be somewhere else right now. They wish they could be sunning themselves on a beach or exploring a rainforest or something like that. Oftentimes, we don't have the funds to do things like that. What a shame. All of this restriction is merely part of the overall perception. If you step right outside of this system and look in, you can see how we are all bound by its rules and norms for our own survival, as it's told to us. In that way, we need to keep the system going to support each other. But really, who are we supporting? There's many who would like to completely redesign the system where it's not hierarchical in structure, shaped like a pyramid where that 1% suck all the money upwards. Imagine if it wasn't that way. Imagine if it was fair. Then you would have those who do earn a bit more than others, feeling like they don't want to be on the same level as those poorer people. They would look at others who used to be perceived lesser than them because they had more money than them, and now everyone's equal, and they would lose their sense of importance, self-importance. The ego wouldn't like it. So those who have a lot of money, or even quite a bit of money, many are often reluctant to want to share in an equal way with all people, because the ego loses its sense of self-importance. So that's one thing that needs to be overcome. So if everyone had an equal share in the planet's resources, and the planet's resources were managed sustainably, and there wasn't this need for intense competition, profit, power manipulation and control by a certain few and those beneath them in the pyramidal structure, then we'd have time freed up in the week. We'd only need to work about 3 days a week in order to support the system, the fair system. And the rest of the week could be enjoyed for mind-expanding activities, and consciousness could therefore expand. Those who need healing, both physical and mentally, would be well supported. A mental illness would reduce, and sadness and a loss of hope and depression would be greatly reduced, because everyone would be taken care of, and no one would find mental illness a subject that is taboo. Consciousness would be free to expand in the way that we would have time to do what we wanted to do without monetary restriction. So, within reasonable limits, individuals would be permitted to experience certain activities, all kinds of activities, travel and seeing the sights, and physical activities, sports, exploration, plus learning. You could spend a lifetime learning and experiencing. Consciousness would never get bored then. So, I know it's hard to perceive a complete system overhaul, including the abolition of money, which many just cannot even begin to perceive. What would we do? Would we be traders? No. We would all get everything we need in return for, say, working 3 days per week to support the system, and the rest of the time is freed up. We might have a more undesirable role and then a very desirable role, but all interchangeable in order to support the system, and the rest of the time is freed up, and people are within limits allowed to do what they want to do, as long as resources are respected and the planet is respected. It's hard to imagine, but just try to imagine consciousness then, how happy things could be if each of us had the ability, without financial restriction, without time restriction, to go out and experience whatever we wanted to within reason, and so that others could have their turns of experiencing all these things too. Then consciousness could thrive. Imagine how much wisdom we would gain, all the experiences we would have and be able to share with each other. How much quicker we would move forward. So it's not just the system that restricts us in the way we live. The system restricts us in our progress. If this system had not been put in place and our planet seized by certain forces, where would we be by now? We would be living incredible lives, and no doubt possess technology beyond our imagination. Instead of it being within the hands of just a few, we would realise our power and potential. No more suppression of new technologies and healthcares. We would be a totally different race by now if our planet wasn't seized by unseen controllers. Our consciousness could thrive, being in a 9 to 5 and working to maintain your own existence. can feel like a prison of the mind. Some people are fortunate enough to have a role that they enjoy and feel like they're making a difference to people or making a difference to the world. And consciousness loves that. Others don't have the opportunity to take on roles and pastimes that make a difference or feel rewarding. And therefore, motivation decreases, and it's kind of difficult to get up in the morning. By the nature of this system, there are the very rich, and therefore there will be the very poor. But one day, I'm sure of it, this system will be overhauled. Consciousness finds a way. It cannot be held back. It cannot be suppressed. Consciousness must expand. It must move forward. But it's worth remembering, whether your life is fantastic, how you perceive it now, or whether it's not so great, your soul or higher self put you here for a reason to experience the constraints of this earthly system. So you're learning those lessons, what it's like. It's what your higher self wants anyway. It would just be nice to see this planet thrive how it's supposed to do, allowing consciousness the freedom it deserves, every individual the freedom to be creative and thrive without constraints. And imagine what a different world it would be.